Welcome to episode 120, using a holding pattern to make more aviation sales.
Yeah, well, I've been in holding patterns before. I don't know if I've ever made any sales.
You've never made a sale while you're in a holding pattern?
No, only to ATC.
Okay. You've been trying to sell to ATC?
No, to get out of the holding pattern.
There you go. All right. So today we're going to do something different, and you actually are going to use a holding pattern to make more sales.
Do tell.
It will be fun. Okay. So we know, first of all, that there are 3 responses to a sales call, right?
Of course.
Of course. And those 3 responses are...
Well, if they can read, it's yes, no, and not now.
Right. Yes, quick, take my money. And the other answer is no, I'm not interested and I will never be interested. And the third answer is I'm not ready. Right?
Exactly.
And all of these are actually good answers to
Of course they are.
a sales call. Why?
Because if they say no, then there's no sense wasting your time.
Right, exactly.
But if they say they're not ready, then you have room to discuss and plan for future yes.
Exactly. So, at the end of every sales interaction, whether it's a phone call or an in-person meeting or, whatever kind of interaction it is, we always want to get one of 3 responses, and any one of those responses is actually fine. And sure. We're actually reading Brian Caskey's book about same game, new rules, right? And one of the things that he talks about in there is detachment.
Yes.
And I love this because it really helps with the whole detachment thing. Because a yes is fine. That's great. Wonderful. Of course, that's what we're after as with salespeople. But a no is also fine. That means that we get them off of our radar. We're not spending time and energy and money on that prospect anymore. And we can devote our energy to the other folks on our list, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And the I'm not ready is actually the thing that we're going to talk about today, right? Most people don't have a really good process for dealing with the I'm not readies, right?
That's right. And that's where you have to have the best process.
Exactly. Because almost every first interaction or almost every sales interaction in the aviation industry, 80% of the time, the answer is,
I don't know.
I don't know yet. I have this to do. I have that to do. I have this to find out.
Right.
There's
always a reason.
Person to talk to, whatever. So here are reasons that they're not ready, right? Mm-hmm. You remember this movie?
Yes.
This is from The Mummy. This is one of my favorite scenes where Evie is reading Egyptian from some tablet and things.
He's telling her to hurry.
And he's telling her, Evie, hurry up. There's bad guys banging down the door. And she says, patience is a virtue. Mm-hmm. And then Rick says, not right now, it isn't. But in aviation sales, patience is always a virtue. And it may not seem like it when you've got people breathing down your neck because you really need to raise some funds. You've got cash flow problems, all kinds of things.
But if they say they're not ready, then you say, great. Mm-hmm. Well, let me get out of your hair. When would you like me to call you again?
Exactly. So even if somebody is breaking down the door, you need to be calm and unflustered and reading the Egyptian, right?
Of course.
And patience is a virtue, right? So the girl wins this round, right?
That round, yes.
Okay. So why are they not ready?
Oh, there's many more reasons than what we have listed here.
Exactly. So, there's often many people involved in the transaction that they have to get approvals from. A lot of times they have to get a budget change approved, things like that. There may be regulatory items that they need to investigate to see, can we put another aircraft on our certificate, other things that they need to figure out. Organizational items, maybe they need to hire a person to manage this thing that you're trying to sell them. It can happen. Or, they're busy with other priorities. In fact, we have a lot of our sales meetings and other things postponed because of the FAA. When one of our clients is being visited by the FAA, they often tell us, we'd like to postpone our office hours or whatever, and that is always a good answer, right?
Well, to quote a good friend of mine from the FAA, they always walk in and say, hello, my name is so-and-so, I'm from the FAA, and I'm here to help.
And I'm here to help. Help you delay everything that you have in process, right?
Exactly.
Okay. But there's lots of reasons why they may not be ready. There are also reasons why you may not be ready. And so, that can be a problem, right? And you may not think about this, as a salesperson, you don't want to think about your own company not being ready, but it sometimes is a problem.
Yes, it is.
And, there are reasons for that. Sometimes capacity or scheduling or product development. You want to make sure that whoever you sell to, when that transaction takes place, your company is ready to fully serve that customer in a really good way, right?
Yep.
Otherwise,
It could be somebody just found a bug in software
and
that's fatal, and you can't sell a product like that if you know it.
exactly. But you still have to continue with the sales process because you can't just put the brakes on and stop selling as they're working the bugs out of your software, right?
Of course.
Okay. One really good example of this is position orders, right? On aircraft, sometimes you're selling a position order on an aircraft that's not going to be ready for months or years. Even the G650 has got a waiting list of 2 years or more.
I don't know what it is now, but it used to.
Right, exactly. So sometimes you are selling things and you have to set those expectations that this is not going to happen tomorrow, for whatever reason. Also, complex systems and infrastructure, sometimes if you're selling like a hangar or a fuel farm or, some big piece of equipment, there are things that need to be done before the sale can take place.
Right.
So a lot of times there are things that need to happen, lots of reasons that lots of people are not ready yet, right?
And they're all involved.
Lots of people. That's another reason that things take more time. The more people that are involved in the sales process and in the purchasing process, the longer the transaction is going to take. So, what can you do while those sales cycles are going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
One thing you can do is to call them all the time.
Which is not a good idea.
Exactly. Yes, I know. It's the 4th time I've called you this month. So, are you impressed with my persistence? Are you ready to buy yet? That is not what you want to do, but that's what a lot of salespeople do.
It's the right thing to do.
And a lot of sales managers, unfortunately, push their people to do.
That's right.
Just like call him again, call him again, call him again, and that's not going to help. It may not be the fault of the person that you're talking to that, this isn't taking place. And it may not be the fault of, if you're a sales manager and you're listening to this, it may not be the fault of your salesperson that the sales has not taken place yet.
That's true.
All right. So now this is a...
good. You found that slide.
I did find this slide. It is disputed, by some good authorities and things like that. I would say this is disputed the other direction from aviation. And basically this is a fairly famous slide from the National Sales Executive Association. 48% of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. 25% of salespeople make a second contact and stop. 12% of salespeople make 3 contacts and stop, and it goes on and on and on. Down to 10% of sales are made on the 4th contact, and 80% of sales are made on the 5th through 12th contact. I would say in a lot of cases in complex, high value, or high risk transactions, such as the aviation industry, it can be 20 or more contacts before the sale takes place.
When people were approaching me to buy my first airplane, it took them, just because of life getting in the way, it took them 6 separate contacts before we actually talked.
Before you even had a conversation in person or on the phone even.
Right.
Yeah. But that does not mean that you should be calling these people every other day, right?
No, not at all.
So what can you do to make all of those contacts and to manage that long sales process and all of those delays without driving people crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
What you can do is what we call a holding pattern. And, there are a lot of things that you can put into your holding pattern. Those things being ebooks, tips, sheets, other things that you can send them or that they can request from you. That's often how they enter the holding pattern in our sales process, is they request a tip sheet. That's often their first contact with us. And that kind of positions the whole relationship nicely for us because they're coming to us with a request. It's what we call inbound marketing, right?
What a deal.
What a deal. And that puts us in a position of, we didn't approach them first. We're not beating the bushes for them. They're actually seeking information. So we know that they're
Right.
at least an interested, if not completely qualified prospect, right?
But they've started the process. They have started the process.
Exactly. So, that's thing number one. Another thing that we like to do is to connect with people on social media. And I know a lot of folks in the aviation industry will say, well, that's just a waste of time. It's not serious. Nobody uses social media. We're not 13-year-old girls. Why would we post about our breakfast on social media?
Well, it's as it ends up, a large majority of aviation folks refuse to acknowledge the fact that they actually do use social media, when in fact an analysis shows that they do.
Right. Statistically speaking, humans are humans. Humans are social. Humans like toys. Everybody has a cell phone. Everybody in the world and their kids have a cell phone. And they tend to use it for some type of social media, even if it is just watching cat videos on YouTube or even if it is just LinkedIn. Right? So if you connect with people on social media, I usually connect with people first on LinkedIn and possibly on Facebook, depending on the type of contact it is. And then if it's someone who's in our sales process, I make it a point to learn what I can about them from their social media and comment when it makes sense. If they post something that I happen to know something helpful or useful about, or even entertaining or funny, make a comment. And there's nothing wrong with getting to know people as humans rather than just as a salesperson.
And it doesn't take that much research to ascertain which of the social media they're using, if any.
Exactly. So that's another thing that we can do. We love to meet people in person when we can at trade shows. So we just were at the Hella Expo last week, right? And met some people that we've known for a long time but have never put the face together with the name.
Yeah, exactly.
So, we can shout out to Sharon at Sharon Despor at Hella Values. I don't know that we'd ever met her in person before.
Nope, we had not.
Right, exactly. And we've met some of her folks. We've done business with her before, but, had never actually met in person. So, that's a great way to extend those relationships and opportunities because there's nothing like shaking someone's hand and looking them in the eye. The phone, of course, is a necessary evil. In my opinion, a lot of people love the phone, especially the demographic of people that we're talking about. Decision makers in the aviation industry are
You should replace that
people, right?
picture of a phone with a picture of a cell phone, because I know what that is, but there are a lot of people that don't understand that where the term hang up the phone came from.
That's true. I know. If you've got a rotary phone, people are wondering, what the heck is that? I've never seen one of those. But a cell phone doesn't really look like much of anything. I guess you could put one of those in there. Newsletters, printed newsletters are one of the most credible sources of information. There's a lot of data that suggests that they are one of the best relationship builders, especially for business to business, in the whole possibility of marketing universe, right? Okay. And email. Email, of course, has a lower credibility rating, but it has a very, very high affordability rating, right? You can send as many emails as you want for practically free, if you've got software to do it.
Yeah, but that's after
you have permission.
Content. Yeah.
But if they've requested your tip sheet,
And then you're good.
they're in your holding pattern, and it is free and legal to use any of these methods to contact that person unless they ask you not to, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So we probably should put in a disclaimer here, the legal situation. We are not attorneys, but there is a thing called the CAN-SPAM Act in the United States, and there is a similar law in Canada, and I'm sure there are other laws elsewhere in the world about sending unsolicited emails and phone calls to people.
But email leaves tracks.
Email leaves more tracks. You're more likely to get caught sending an unsolicited email to someone who has not requested it. So one way that you can protect yourself is to, if you meet someone at a trade show and they hand you a card, you may want to document on the back of the card, met at this trade show, or put a sticky note on the card if you don't want to deface somebody's business card. The other thing you can do is if they contact you online, then of course you've got the tracks. And most mail systems like Constant Contact MailChimp, we use Infusionsoft, Salesforce, any of those, you can connect with the form that they use to request your tip sheet or your lead magnet or your
And then the CRM
buyer's
knows that
guide or
they're
ebook.
good.
Right. And then the CRM has the documentation showing that they actually requested information from you. You can send them email as many times as you want to until they
Tell you not to.
tell you not to, and click the unsubscribe link or do whatever. So email is another really great way to stay in touch with people. We actually recommend that you create a holding pattern based on a number of things. Number one, the number of people that you have in your holding pattern. So if you've got a ton of them, it may not be practical to reach out to every single one of them by phone once a month, But the other things you can do, email, newsletter, social media, all of that stuff is a little bit more doable.
True.
But, you may want to take the ones that, and this is another thing that your CRM can do for you, is a lead score. So it will tell you how many times this person has interacted with any of the electronic things in this holding pattern. So have they visited your website in response to an email? Have they opened an email? Did they, some of the CRMs actually will also connect to your social media, and they can tell how many times they've interacted with you via social media. So all of those things can give you what they call a lead score, and that will tell you these are the people who are most likely to be most interested right now. You should spend your time, your phone time, on these 10 people.
True.
As an example. So that's what a holding pattern is, and that's what a holding pattern does, right?
Yep.
And now we know why we want one, right? Because I'm not ready is the most common response to a sales presentation, and rightly so, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if you would like some help with your holding pattern, whether you have one that maybe isn't working well, if people are falling out of your holding pattern, or if you're losing too many people, or you're calling them too often, or you're just uncomfortable with the way it's working, or you feel like it needs to be beefed up in some way, we'd be happy to consult with you about that, or about anything else about marketing. There's a Let's Talk button in the lower left-hand corner of your website.
This page,
of
at least.
Our website, exactly, that says Let's Talk. So you can click on that, and it will take you to my calendar, and you can schedule 30 minutes anytime you like, and we'll do our best to answer your questions, make sure that we're helping you make a really solid, fabulous, leak-proof holding pattern, right?
Of course.
Absolutely. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week.
See you next week.